My guest today is Daniel Blue. Dan's got a great perspective on life. He's overcome a lot of adversity, which we get into, and now he's 32 and employing 14 other people. His business helps educate people on the power of the solo 401k to fund new business, pay off debt, or invest outside the stock market. This is an episode you won't want to miss. If you've been enjoying the show, please go ahead and leave us a review or just tell one or two friends who might also get some value. We'd also love to cover topics that you're interested in hearing about, so give us an email at investsmarterpod@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Here's my conversation with Daniel Blue.
Welcome to the Invest Smarter podcast, where we'll simplify investing and provide actionable ideas to help you navigate the markets and own your future. From retirement planning strategies in plain English to timeless investing wisdom, we'll cut through the noise and leave you a smarter investor by the end of every show. All content within the podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decision making.
All right, Daniel, welcome to the Invest Smarter podcast. It's great to have you, man.
Hey, David. Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm excited to jam with you.
Yeah, let's do this. I was checking out your background a little bit, and I think you've got a pretty interesting story. You've overcome some adversity, perhaps, and I think you've gone through some trials and tribulations, perhaps. So why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, man, I'm not, special by any means. I mean, everyone listening to this right now, like there's probably been one or two, maybe more life-changing moments that defined you, and going through those hard times, you might not think in the moment like, hey, this is going to be a truly defining moment 5, 10, 20 years from now. But, looking back, you can see, where you're shaped as a human. For me, a couple of those moments was when I was 12. My parents were divorced. They got divorced, and I mean, divorce is what, 50% rate. So it's not like, oh, wow, your parents got divorced. I mean, I think everyone knows someone or been a part of a divorce. But what was unique about my circumstances, my dad moved to Mexico at that time, and I didn't get any answers in terms of why he left, and he left and still lives there today. So that was really tough because now my mom raised me on her own. She was a social worker in California, high cost of living. She was gone all day working, and that left me at home with not a lot of supervision. So during middle school, high school, I started making bad choices, started ditching school, getting into drugs, no supervision. So I was just kind of the wild, wild west out there. And I was getting close to a point where I was not going to pass school. So it was my junior year. I barely showed up, had a conversation with my mom. My mom's like, hey, you're going to end up in jail or you're not going to graduate high school. And I don't want to see those two things happen. So I'm going to move you to St. George, Utah. I know someone there and you can stay at their house, and I want to make this happen for you. And I was in a dark place at that time. So I was just like, all right, let's make it happen. So I ended up leaving Oceanside, California, where I grew up. And I moved to St. George, Utah. And if you've never heard of St. George, Utah, maybe you've heard of Zion National Park. It's a beautiful place. If you haven't been there, Google it and actually go there. It's gorgeous. But St. George is pretty close to Zion National Park. Graduated my senior year there, went to Dixie High School. And because I did not really know who I was still lost. Society told me to go to college. So I went to college. I dropped out of college because I had no idea why I was even there other than society told me. And networking was really big for me, David. Networking is what has allowed me to get where I am today and have some success along the journey as an employee. But I ended up networking with some certain people, and I found a sales career at 18 years old. I started making really good money, but then I also started making really bad decisions, which included getting addicted to Oxycontin at 18 years old, and then ended up actually having a kid at 19 years old. God came in and was just like, hey, man, you're a knucklehead making bad decisions. If you want to get clean and stay clean, here's a baby girl. And that's kind of interesting to think about the fact that, I'm 32 years old. I've been clean for 12 years and my daughter's 12 years. And I say interesting because I actually moved to Las Vegas to get clean from drugs when I was 20 years old. And not a lot of people can believe that, moving to Sin City to get clean, but it's worked out well for me, David.
That's a really cool story. Cool in the sense that, you're on a podcast right now. You got a business. You're employing people, and you're 32. So that's a life lived in a fairly short amount of time.
got some gray
And
hairs, man, if you can see them.
I can't see him, man. You look great, but I mean, that's an inspirational story. I mean, life's like a bitch, right? Like, there's so many people going through so many different things at different times, and like one of my mottos is, if I'm on the street or I'm going to the store to buy something and someone's rude to me or the cashier is rude to me, I always like to try and give people the benefit of the doubt, because maybe they're going through some heavy stuff. Maybe they're having a bad day. Um, so that's like my thing. So for sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have those core values and know what you stand for. That's a really good one, because you're right. You don't know what people are going through. They might, have a really, really dark day. And we've all had those dark days where we have a cloud over us and we're kind of in a funk. So you definitely have to have empathy for other people and realize that, they're going through some things that you just don't know. And, it could be you the next day.
Yeah, for sure. I just like to think that, if I'm nice and positive to people, everyone I meet, then maybe, who knows, maybe I lifted them up for that day and help them get through the day. So you never really know. So you're 32 now and you went through all this stuff, and Oxycontin, man, that is some crazy stuff. I mean, I can only imagine, but I'm assuming maybe do you in any way attribute what you've been through and have overcome it to your success today?
Oh yeah. I've got 14 employees. I'm a college dropout. I've got customers in all 50 states. I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go through the struggle. We're all going through some type of struggle. We've been through some type of massive struggle. And it sounds cliche, but it's so true. The other side of your struggle is success, right? If you're going through challenges, adversity, you're getting tested, and you're able to persevere, when you come out on the other side, you're just going to be farther along than before you started that struggle, right? You're going to have more lessons to draw from. You're going to have more resilience. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be wiser. You're going to learn from your failures. So absolutely. And to your point on the whole pills, I don't think a lot of people know Utah is really big into pills, man. Oxycontin, Loratab, Percocet. I was blown away the amount of people that are abusing pills, but it's not just there. It's interesting. As I got older and 5-10 years go by that I haven't used, I started reading articles in the newspaper talking about these huge pharmaceutical companies like Johnson and Johnson. I think they just settled a $1 billion lawsuit, right? Because they were just over prescribing these pills. And it's a nasty addiction, man. For this conversation, I would assume some people listening either themselves had a scare or a week or two or a month where they used pills and they stopped using it, and they're like, man, like I'm constipated now, or man, my stomach hurts, or like, man, I feel funky. Like you actually withdraw from these pills, or maybe a family member or a friend that actually was an addict. And it's basically like when you think about Percocet, Loratab, Vicodin, especially Oxycontin, a lot of those pills are just heroin in a pill form. So super addicting, super expensive, and you go down a dark path as an addict.
I was following some of the opioid lawsuits with the businesses fairly closely, only because there's a company that's local to where I am that I actually like the company. I think it's a good company with good bones. And I got to the mind that a lot of this lawsuit was a money grab, trying to blame the manufacturer for the addiction and stuff. But it's interesting because I guess one of the main claims that they would make is that it's an FDA approved drug and the doctors are prescribing it. And then but there's the sales reps, of course, that are going to doctors' offices saying to prescribe it. But, it's kind of a weird situation. Like, where does the blame really lie? And then, so I'm curious, how much did you see on the street, so to speak? Was it pills from the manufacturer, or was it like, because I always hear like it's from Mexico or something like that?
No, man, like it was just legit people that would get, and this is why I think these companies had all these lawsuits, is they were just over prescribing. Like I knew so many people that had a use of these pills, but they only used the pill like once every other day or once a week, and they would be getting 30, 60, 90 a month. So this one person that's like, man, I'm getting 90 Oxycontins a month, but I'm only taking 20 a month. what should I do with these other 70? Oh, I can sell them. Right. So it was a lot of that, like
Yeah,
in
it's
terms
just
of other
weird.
people.
Like, why would a doctor do that? Why would a
Money.
doctor prescribe that? I could never wrap my mind
Yeah.
around it. I mean, a doctor knows, they went through biology class. I know the addictive property of it, right? Like, it's like, why prescribe? I remember I got my wisdom teeth taken out and they gave me like 30 Percocet. It's like, what? Like,
Yeah.
why'd you give me all these? Pretty fascinating. And I watched actually one of the court proceedings, the J&J versus Oklahoma. And man, what a battle. I mean, both sides had points, and but
I mean, we're in a capitalist country, but ultimately, when you boil it down, it just comes down to greed, right? Like the
yeah.
more pills they can prescribe, then the happier the pharmaceutical companies are, more commissions, more revenue, more volume, and they just feed it to us and people that can't say no and get addicted. It's just a vicious cycle.
Yeah, greed is pretty well coded into the human DNA. So, but anyways, I digress. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what you're doing? Because you went through a lot of this, and now I feel like your business is truly. I get the sense that it's truly for the benefit of the people, kind of thing. Like you're actually truly helping people. I don't know how you get paid or how the revenue or whatever, but it seems like you're helping people figure out some smarter ways to sort of utilize their assets. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, so I got started in sales at a young age, as I mentioned earlier, and I was in the real estate sales arena. And talking to a lot of real estate investors, they would mention that they use their IRA and 401k to flip a house. They use their retirement account to purchase a rental property. Like, that's weird. I didn't know you could do that. I thought retirement accounts were just for stocks and mutual funds and bonds and Wall Street based assets, right? So that was something that was introduced to me at a young age in the sense of learning about self-directed retirement accounts. So I pivoted industries. I'm 32 now. This is probably about 24, so 8 years ago, pivoted industries. And the company I own now, Quest Education, the big problem that we solve in the market is helping people access money in their retirement accounts, penalty and tax-free. And you mentioned earlier in our business model, we don't sell investments. So, we're not here to shove insurance products down, people's throats. We don't sell stocks, we don't sell real estate. We're here to sell a solution. And when people are talking to us, we're trying to find out where we can add value. I'll give you an example. One of our customers, she worked at Great Clips. She was managing hair salons, and she wanted to get off her feet, wanted to quit her job, and she wanted to start a business. And the business she wanted to start was an online business, and she needed some money for inventory. And she didn't want to use credit cards to buy the inventory. She didn't want to get into debt and pay interest. So she wanted to tap into her retirement account. And her advisor pretty much told her not to do it. And she'd have to pay a bunch of penalties and taxes if she took the money out. And as you know, and people listening, if you take money out of an IRA or 401k, for the most part, you're going to pay 20, 30, maybe 40% in penalties and taxes to the IRS, right? So what we helped her do is we helped her take that account that she had, moved it into a solo 401k. The solo 401k has a loan feature, and she took out $20,000 penalty and tax-free, used that money to buy inventory and what she needed for her online business. And that was a few years ago. And today she's working from home. She's her own boss. She quit her job a while back. And, she's able to sustain herself by being an entrepreneur. And a lot of that was from the solo 401k. So just comes down to where people are. Maybe they have high interest rate credit card debt they want to pay off. Maybe they need funding for a business. Maybe they want to invest into some real estate assets, things like that. So it's just a matter of finding out where we can add value.
Yeah, that sounds really great. So why don't we talk about like what is a solo 401k? How is it different from a simple 401k that you might have with your company? Who is eligible for one and who's not? And maybe start there.
Yeah, so a solo 401k is an IRS-approved plan that's for entrepreneurs who have no W-2 employees. You can be an employee, obviously it's your business, and a spouse can be on the plan. You can have 1099 contractors, virtual assistants, but can't be any W-2 employees other than you or a spouse. This is really great for maybe real estate agents. Maybe they get 1099 income, they have an LLC or a sole prop. people that have online businesses, freelancers, consultants, just solopreneurs in that field. That's where they qualify per the IRS. And what makes this plan different from the 401k through your job, for example, is the 401k through your job may or may not have a loan feature. That loan feature can come in handy where, you can always access the money and pull it out penalty and tax free, and you could use it however you want. There was no restrictions per the IRS. And then also the 401k through a job, as you know, David, and this is why, you guys do great work over where you're at being fiduciaries, like you guys give your clients a lot of investment options, right? Well, a 401k that you have through your job, you don't get a lot of investment options, right? Like you sit down and you fill out the paperwork for your 401k and you get to decide, do you want conservative? Do you want, moderate? Do you want aggressive? Or maybe you work for Walmart and they're like, hey, you get Walmart stock. But you basically don't get a lot of options when it comes to a 401k through your job. Whereas a solo 401k, you have a lot of investment options. If you want to invest into, equities and stocks and mutual funds, ETFs, all the Wall Street stuff, you can. But if you also want to invest into precious metals, crypto, real estate, private equity, different businesses, you can do that too. So just a lot more flexibility that the solo 401k has, a lot more freedom compared to a 401k that you have through your job.
Yeah, that's interesting. Especially when you're thinking about the menu of options at your job 401k. It's so limited. And the biggest problem I see and we see in our industry is so many people just don't even pay attention to it. They choose something and then they never look at it again. They'll look at the statement and say, oh, it's going up or down, but they don't really know why they chose what they chose or if it makes any sense for them or any changes that should potentially be made. They just leave it alone. In fact, I think the stat is like 40% of Americans just don't know what's in their 401k. And
I think the same stat could probably be said that so many Americans don't even know how much they're paying in fees for the retirement.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. When you unravel the 401k fees, it can get pretty high. And I also recently read about, there's been a study about the 401ks. If you look at the options, if all the options in a 401k are managed by the same investment company, it actually creates a conflict of interest because the company that is managing those funds, they can essentially manage those funds. They can offer funds that are doing worse to try and get new 401k money into the fund to boost up that lagging fund. And they'll just kind of shuffle around, that kind of thing. So it can create a performance drag over time. So that's another interesting thing that people just have no way of knowing. So by opening up the universe to anything, you can just actually truly do what is in your best interest.
It's where education comes in, man. Like, you doing your thing on the podcast. I know you're adding a lot of value to the audience. I just wrote a book. I'll be a published author next month. It's called Blueprint to Your Best Retirement. I talk about the self-directed retirement account world, how you can use the solo 401k to make tax-free money. And also have a chapter talking about fees and all the hidden fees that, Wall Street has buried in these expense ratios with mutual funds and things like that. So yeah, you're right. People can just choose to have their investments, their retirement accounts, like out of sight, out of mind and not care. Or just take a little bit of time, maybe once a quarter, maybe a couple times a year and just lift up the hood of the car, so to speak. And the car is your retirement account, the vehicle, and lift up the hood of that vehicle and just make sure that things look good and smell good, right? If your car is overheating, you're going to smell that and something's wrong, right? So
yeah, for sure. And you don't want to leave a lot. You don't want to keep your, you want to make sure you're getting value for your junk lemon cars. And what I mean by that is if you change jobs a lot, you don't want to leave those 401ks chilling with that company, right? You want to roll the 401k into an IRA or whatever. You don't want to just leave because there's people that have like orphan 401ks that they just don't even, they just leave it there. Yeah. I see that all the time too. So yeah. I want to get into a little bit about how the mechanics would work. Let's say you roll into, or you transfer your 401k. Now, we're not talking about transferring a 401k to a solo. Are you talking about just opening a solo, or can you roll over a 401k into a solo if you Yeah, explain how that might work.
Yeah, I mean, if you qualify for a solo 401k, as mentioned earlier, in terms of IRS needs to make sure that you have business, business intent, solopreneur. You can have an LLC or sole proprietorship, right? So if that's you and you're a solopreneur, you can set up a solo 401k and you can contribute new money into the solo 401k. But the IRS also will allow you to take a 401k from an old job or an IRA and convert that into a solo 401k. And then now you can take action with that new money that you took from the other accounts in your solo 401k and move forward with some different moves.
Right. So you could move an IRA into the solo 401k and then you unlock the ability to take a loan from it, right?
Correct.
That's one of the most powerful things. So then you want to start a business, you can take the loan and you have funding for a business. How would it work if you wanted to go into crypto?
You wouldn't need to take a loan there. If you wanted if you wanted to take the dividends or the realized gains from the crypto and you wanted to take that out and use it to like pay bills or use it to, do whatever and it not be confined in the retirement account, then take a loan out. You could take out 20 grand, buy crypto. And then now that investment in crypto is held outside of a retirement account, right? Or you can just leave the money in your solo 401k and now you can just have the solo 401k own the crypto. And then if you make a bunch of money, there's no taxable event, right? However, it's now inside of a solo 401k. So, it is a little bit more confined compared to, money outside of a retirement account. Different rules per the IRS.
Right. Gotcha. And then when it comes to real estate, how do you typically see that happen? Through the loan?
That is one way to make it happen. If people are like, you know what, this investment I want to make, whether it's crypto or real estate, I don't want to have to deal with IRS retirement account rules. I'm okay paying taxes on my gains. I just want more flexibility with my money. So I'm just going to take a loan out and I'm going to do this business activity outside of my retirement account. Right. So we do see that. But then we also see, hey, I want to make some investments in crypto and real estate, but I don't want to have to claim these gains as income and to get taxed. So they can leave the money in the retirement account, and then now their retirement account can invest into private lending or maybe invest into a deal with Grant Cardone and be a part of a syndication and own, a piece of an apartment complex in North Carolina, or, private equity. You can also do active investments. If the numbers work out, you can use your retirement account to purchase a property, flip it, and then the gains from that flip go back in the retirement account. You can use the retirement account to purchase a property, get a renter in there, and then the rental income goes back into the retirement account like a dividend, like a stock dividend. And then those gains don't count as taxable income because it's held within a tax deferred or a Roth retirement account.
Interesting. So to be fair, I'm not too familiar with these more creative uses of this. So when you buy a property within the 401k, the solo 401k, what does that look like for someone? If someone wants to do that, like, how does that look? Is there anything special they have to do? Because I'm so used to thinking about, the stocks, the bonds, the equities, the ETF. So I'm not always thinking it this way. So if someone wanted to, they opened up their solo 401k and they wanted to buy real estate within the solo 401k, how might that look in a practical matter?
Yeah, first step is, are you buying the property outright or are you financing it, right? Like if you have $200,000 in your retirement account and you're buying a property for $100,000 in Ohio, then you can just buy the property outright, right? There's no debt, there's no financing, right? So now the retirement account owns the property. There are some compliance hurdles. Like for example, if your retirement account owns the property, you can't live in it. Okay. You can't rent it out to your mom, your son. It has to be arm's length distance transactions.
Okay.
You can't fix up the house on your own. You have to hire a third party contractor. Water heater breaks, $4,000. You can't take money from your savings account and cover that $4,000 bill. The money has to come from your retirement account to pay the expenses, HOA, like every expense tied to that retirement account every expense tied to the real estate property has to come from the retirement account. Okay, so if you're just going to buy it outright, then it's a lot easier. Where it gets a little bit more convoluted is when you buy a property with a retirement account and you're financing it. Maybe you've got 200,000 in your retirement account and you want to buy a property for 400,000. Well, now you're going to need to do what's called a non-recourse loan. And not a lot of people know about non-recourse loans. Not a lot of banks use or offer that type of product. So it is pretty niche. And it is a little bit more expensive in terms of fees and points and things like that, just because you're, just like it sounds, there's no recourse. The bank is lending the money based off of your asset, which is your retirement account. And then still the same concept. You can't live in it. You can't rent it out to, lineal descendants, things like that. So when it comes to doing active deals like flipping and rentals, when your retirement account actually owns the property, you really want to make sure that you know what you're doing and you're working with professionals so you don't encounter a prohibited transaction.
That's pretty fascinating. I had actually had no idea about that. I'm having a hard time imagining how that would even work. So you have the property in the retirement account. You can't directly make the improvements. You have to hire a third party. How would you? That just seems like that might seem like a lot of work. Have you seen this done like successfully? And
oh yeah. I mean, it's just people go into it having the expectations, right? Like you also can't write off depreciation, right? Because now this retirement account is held within this real estate property is held within a retirement account. IRS isn't going to let you get tax deferral treatment or Roth tax-free status and depreciation, right? So it's all about just knowing the expectations ahead of time and just knowing that, okay, I have $200,000 in my retirement account. I'm going to buy a property for $100,000. It's going to need $20,000 in rehab costs.
And all those costs come out of the IRA or the 401k.
Exactly. They just sign a form or checkbook control, and then they just pay that third party company out of their retirement account for that service. And then let's just say that they bought the property for $100,000 and then they turn around and sell it for $150,000. The cool part in this scenario is that growth, there's no taxable event triggered, right? So that $50,000 gain or $30,000, whatever it is, there's no taxable event triggered because it's done within a retirement account, right? It's like buying Apple stock worth $100,000 and selling it, for $150,000. If that's done with an IRA or 401k, no taxable event. So they take their gains and then they can just keep, going on to the next deal. So there's some pros and cons.
Yeah, it's interesting how because like my brain once thinks like if I'm taking money out of my retirement or out of my 401k to pay for rehab, to me it's like a withdrawal almost you have to pay tax on. But this way they're directly, it's like you would consider it more like an investment into the house from the exactly. So it's kind of, for me, it's like changed the way I'm thinking about it a little bit.
Yeah. It can be a process that is a bit complicated, right? And that's why companies like ours exist, to educate, inform people. Cool part about all this is just public information. Self-directed retirement accounts have been around for decades. So this isn't some brand new strategy that just came out. The IRS has approved this for decades. It's just not something that's really talked a whole lot about in the mainstream.
Right, which creates space for you to fill in the void and educate. Because I mean, it's certainly not something that I'm going to, that's not my business. Most financial advisors like me aren't talking about this. It's not, it doesn't really make sense for us to. But I can already think of a few people I know that don't know about this, I maybe should. Like I can think of my brother, for instance. He's all into real estate and all that kind of thing, and he should know about this kind of thing. So I mean, there's people out there that I feel like can definitely benefit from understanding this stuff, because that's kind of complicated what we just talked about. It's not that simple, and it's not common knowledge at all.
For sure. That's knowledge is power, right? And then like you mentioned earlier, people now can make their own decisions, and that's what we're all about, is just pulling back the curtain and helping people understand, the facts and what you can and can't do, and then letting people become empowered to make their own decision, be a captain of their own ship.
Yeah, for sure. I still think it's pretty impressive that you have a lot of employees. So like, how's business going for you? And like, what is your business model? I'm now very curious, like how you guys actually make money. And if someone wanted to work with you, like what would they do?
Yeah, I mean, to find out more information, best place to go would be danielblue.me. That's my website. It's got links to my course. I have a course called The Quest Way, how to make money tax-free. Has different modules on, how to make money tax-free using Roth Solo 401k, how to access your retirement accounts penalty and tax-free, how to use it to invest into real estate. So it kind of talks a little bit about what we spoke, a little bit more in detail. And then also has a link to my book that's coming out next month. Again, it's called Blueprint to Your Best Retirement. Also has links to my podcast. I have a podcast called How Winners Win. We talk about personal growth, financial, and business ways to win. I'm here to just share, what's worked for me and what hasn't worked for me. And then also I've got a link to my company's website, Quest Education. So if you have a 401k from an old job or an IRA, and you're interested in accessing that money penalty and tax-free, Quest Education is where you can fill out some information and speak to my team. And where we make money is when we actually help people move forward with a solo 401k. So we do charge a one-time fee to help people get everything set up. Essentially, it's an education fee. We provide the education up front. So we're here to, really, like I said earlier, pull back the curtain, help people understand the possibilities and what you can and can't do. And sometimes we move forward with people where they're like, oh, shoot, this makes sense. I'm ready to take action today. What's the next step? Other times they're just like, it's not for me right now. But we feel good about that model because now we know either we're going to help someone move forward or they're going to leave our conversations knowing more than they knew before they started talking to us. And then, having 14 employees, it's been interesting, especially with COVID. Pre-COVID, we were in an office together, giving each other fist bumps, having conversations, just being in the same room. And I've never worked remote before, pre-COVID. And then when we started to work remote, we struggled. Communication was off. It was just different for all of us. But like everyone else, we've had to adapt. I've got half of my staff working remote. Thank God I didn't have to, knock on wood, lay anyone off during the crisis. But I've evolved my business where I do have a lot of my staff working remote, and they're productive, doing well. And then I've got some of my staff in the office, and the office is just kind of now a place where people can come, if they want to get away from their dogs barking or their kids bugging them.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've actually, I started remote and I just stayed remote because my office is small. It was 4 people. So, I guess we missed out on some of the, communication, but, we communicate a lot during the day. And so it's working okay for us, but for you, that's interesting. But it came to my mind, I was wondering, did you see like potentially an uptick in business for COVID? I only say that because a lot of people had been laid off, right? And then they have the 401k. So maybe and I know there's probably been a lot of entrepreneurs born from COVID who lost their job maybe. So maybe it was a boon for you?
I will say we did hit some bumps along the way, especially with the CARES Act, right? When they had that unprecedented time of a window of allowing people to access money in their retirement accounts without paying those penalties and taxes. However, you still had to pay it back within 3 years. So you still are on the hook. But we've never seen something like that before, right? So we did talk to a lot of people that were just like, well, you beat me to it. Like I took out money from my retirement account 3 weeks ago. So, we hit some challenges, especially with some of our affiliates. They got hit pretty hard. But we survived, man. And we made some pivots with our marketing and, our strategies, and we're still in the game and doing our best to grow and get the word out.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It sounds like you guys adapted pretty well. Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about? I mean, I don't know if I have any more questions. I mean, if there's anything more about the solo 401k that you think could be beneficial, especially to maybe someone who's, getting, in a career, and any advice at all?
I would definitely take advantage of Roth money. I know you guys preach that on your side. Not a lot of people are aware that a solo 401k, you can contribute new money up to $58,000 per year, depending on how much your business brings in. And you can make those contributions all Roth. And that's huge, right? Like if you're a high income earner, your business is doing pretty well and you have some good, decent income coming in, you can start putting aside 10, 20, $30,000 up to 58,000 into a solo 401k, have it be Roth, meaning the money you put in, let's just say it's 20,000 to a Roth Solo 401k, you have to claim that 20,000 as income. So you're paying taxes on the seed still. However, if that 20,000 grew to 100,000 over a period of time, that's 100% tax-free money. And I don't care if you voted for Trump or for Biden. I think we all can agree. It's funny even saying we all can agree because everyone argues these days and everyone's so divisive, but we all can agree taxes are not going down. So I would rather pay taxes now on my money versus down the road where there's a really, really good chance that tax rates are increasing. We already know they are, and tax rates probably aren't going down over the next 3, 5, 10 years. So having Roth money is huge. Having that bucket of tax-free money is massive. So, definitely looking into a Roth Solo 401k could be beneficial for a lot of people listening.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I mean, you can put in some of the things you expect to appreciate more in there, and you could, the sky's the limit really in the Roth, and then you take it out tax free. I mean, we always recommend to people, where you house your assets is really important. If you have maybe like 5 stocks that you just love and you believe in so much, like put them in your Roth, because if they work out and they're home runs for you, then you don't want to have, thousands of percent of gain that you're paying tax on later on. You want to be able to take that money out tax free.
Yeah, if you Google Mitt Romney self-directed, it's reported anywhere he has anywhere from 50 million to 100 million in self-directed Roth retirement accounts. I was reading up, he invested into some off Wall Street assets and private equity and is sitting on tens of millions of dollars in self-directed Roth accounts. So
that's crazy. I haven't looked into it yet, but there's also something about Peter Thiel, who's, the guy, and he's the big hedge fund guy, I think, but apparently his Roth IRA is worth like 5 billion or something, like something just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think there's talk about the government finally doing something, which I hope they don't, because I think the Roth is amazing.
Yeah. Not a lot of people use it too. So it's like, it's there. You might as well take advantage of it. Again, comes down to lack of knowledge and game planning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that could be really powerful, because if you're in a Roth 401k with that limited menu of options, you're not going to take full advantage of what the Roth can do for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So unless there's anything else, I mean, I'm sort of out of questions.
Hopefully, your audience was able to get a nugget or two out of this. And people that want to learn more, again, head over to danielblue.me. And it was great speaking with you here today.
Yeah, great speaking with you too. I'll be sure to put all your information in the show notes, and I hope people check out your website and check out what you do. And I may even send some people your way. So it was really great talking to you, Daniel. I appreciate that. Your story is great. I mean, kudos to you. I almost feel like I need to go through some more challenges so I can come out on the other side a little bit more hungry. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you need to do 75 hard. Have you heard of that?
No, what's that?
All right. So every day for 75 days, there's no alcohol, stick to a diet. Doesn't matter what kind of diet it is. No cheat meals. You got to work out twice a day. One workout has to be outside. Could be a 45-minute walk, 45-minute jog. It has to be 2 45-minute workouts. Drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages a day, and then take a progress picture. You do that for 75 days straight.
Read 10 pages of a book.
Yep.
So you're training your body and your mind.
Yeah, it's definitely mindset, man. There's some physical elements to it for sure, but it's all mindset, because in 75 days, like, there's things that are going to happen, right? Family comes in town, that throws you off. You go on a vacation, maybe you get sick, maybe you have to go for a work trip. Like, something's going to happen in that 75 days where you're like, oh man, like, can I finish this thing? And it forces you to really manage your time correctly, because you have to make sure you get those tasks done every single day. So I completed 75 hard earlier this year, and I'm probably in the best shape of my life. And I got a lot done within those 75 days. with work and personal goals. So if you're looking for a challenge, man, something to kick your ass, 75 hard will do that for you.
I actually really like that. I kind of started a diet, and I do this thing where I go hard working out for like a few months, and I get in the best shape ever, and then I completely get burned out and I stop, and then I just repeat. And I'm like my weight, it's like a yo-yo. I'm like, every year it's like same thing. I'm just waiting for like something to happen in my brain where I just do it every day for a whole year, or not. I need to work out less when I work out hard, not every single day so hard, because then you kind of might get burned out, but just consistently a few times a week. But the 75 hard might be a good way to kickstart that.
Definitely will, man. I'm not doing 75 hard anymore, right? I mean, I take rest days. Like, I'm not a believer in being in the gym and lifting heavy weights every single day. But during 75 hard, I was definitely in the gym every day. And then I had to do outside workout. And there were days where during 75 hard, I went to the gym and I was just so sore from working out that I just ran for 30 minutes and then stretched for a few minutes and, maybe play basketball in the gym, just doesn't have to be like, working out, like lifting, heavy weight, just exercise for 45 minutes indoors and then 45 minutes outdoors.
Yeah. And it's 2.5 months. So you just got to commit to it.
Yeah.
Just do it. And when you want to have those beers while you're playing golf, just don't do it.
That's hard, bro. That was
for
hard.
me. I love drinking when I play golf.
Me too, man.
So
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. All right, man. I think that might have been the best part of the whole conversation. People are going to do 75 hard, and then they're going to be so clear-minded. They're going to want to get their finances straightened out.
Yeah, and then they're going to look at their before and after pictures and be like, "Man, who is that on the left?"
Yeah, I'm going to get everything else in my life straightened out, and it's going to kill it.
Yep.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate it. Let's do this again sometime. All right.
Sounds good, David. Nice chatting with you, bro.
All right. Nice chatting with you. See ya.
Email us at investsmarterpod@gmail.com with questions to be highlighted on the show. Thanks for listening, and keep investing smarter.